In 2012 by the Assembly Tibetan Institute as a counter report to the white paper which has been published by the Chinese government. And I think this is the from the micro point of view how the government and NGOs are able to counter the Chinese government's propaganda. On the micro level, I think each one of the Tibetan people has a responsibility to increase awareness about Tibetan issue. Before that, we had to thoroughly understand ourselves first to educate others. So this is on the micro level. Every Tibetan people has a responsibility, extra responsibility to educate other people, especially Chinese. Those who are in the universities and colleges have responsibility to educate his or her friend to aware about Tibetan issue, and particularly in that context, white paper. So every Tibetan has an extra responsibility on a micro level. So this is from the macro and micro point of view how the exact Tibetans respond to the Chinese white paper from Tibet. So in this white paper, they talk about various historical developments and development that has been going in Tibet is all sound path of development, all these things. And in this white paper, particularly, they this time the fresh thing or maybe the interesting feature of this white paper, they said this white paper is to split China. In a sense, Tibetan people's white paper, middle way policy is a Tibetan other form of disguise. So with this note, I will end my presentation, and I hope I'll have more questions from you, and also I appreciate if you have any comments regarding this subject, and as well as any issues relating to Tibet and China. So I'm happy to entertain your questions. Thank you. Please.
There was a comment on one of your bullet points saying that how the white paper addresses Tibet burning.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain what? I mean, maybe it's because I don't know what the situation currently in Tibet is and why Tibet is. Yeah, that's. Is it just that Tibetans cannot? I understand that they're not free to practice or practice religion or their culture. What is the Tibet burning reference to?
Since 2009, the world witnessed 140 Tibetan self-immolation. So these self-immolations, the unanimous slogan they have raised, and the note that the self-immolators left behind says that they want His Holiness Dalai Lama returned back to Tibet and the freedom for Tibetans. So I believe that if the Chinese government are so much confident and devoted to the Tibetan peoples, I mean the Chinese government ruled occupation in Tibet, then if they are so much confident in the Tibetan peoples, then why these people, 140 Tibetan people, are burning themselves alive under Chinese occupation? Reason.
What do you think the communists were thinking about in terms of mineral wealth, forests, etc., when Mao invaded? Do you think that was one of the reasons he invaded, or he just wanted to expand the motherland?
What I found from my understanding of Chinese invasion of Tibet is mostly a geopolitical importance. Since early 50s, there was no sort of mining incidents and damming incidents on the Tibetan plateau. It's all up to the 1960s and 70s, and massively in the 2000s and late 90s. So in line with that, I want to bring that up that the importance of Tibetans, title as a water tower of Asia. Tibet, as my audience here said, Tibet has reportedly has more than 130 minerals, including gold, copper, morass, uranium. So there was reported incident of mining collapse in Tibet, area called Melkonga is near to Lhasa. So in the Chinese media reported that this mining as a model of model mining. So if model mining, three people, mostly Chinese, the Chinese media says reported that there are only 2 Tibetans. So nonetheless, the irony is if the model mining collapse and lead to the death of huge number of people, then what about the other minings that are happening in Tibet? So it was reported that there were more than 20 massive mining is happening in Tibet, and some say more than 3,000. So if the gamma mining, which is a model mining, collapse, so this raises a lot of questions. What about the other minings that are happening inside Tibet? So this is one thing that I want to bring up.
It might be interesting for you to tell us what happens in Tibet to the people who protest. What happens to these people if they protest a mine or protest the nomads being moved off the land or having to sell their animals? What happens to these people?
Oh, thank you for a very good question. Yes, so you may be wondering, what happened to the Tibetan people after the protest, right? So, as I mentioned before, the Tibetan self-emulators, so the Chinese government have instead of redressing, instead of putting effective redress mechanisms, they they launch more harsher and repressive policies, including the Chinese government. They say that the self-emulators the self-emulation as criminals. They criminalize the self-emulation, and people who are actually trying to bring a decent funeral to the dead body, put behind the bars. So there has been a constant fear, within the Tibetan people mind that if they are in a sense they protest, they would be prosecuted, they would be imprisoned. So these are the consequences Tibetan people face after the protests and demonstrations.
Yes. So you said it's the white paper is a propaganda tool. So how it works? One, it's released, they present it in the media, and maybe do you have an idea how much Chinese people care about the Tibetan issue?
Thank you for a very good question. Yes, white paper, I said, is a supplementary to the propaganda tool that Chinese government has implemented. Supplementary to the annual delegation tour since 2009. The Chinese started sending the delegation to Europe and America, where there is a greater number of support for the military policy. So coming to your question regarding how influential white paper is inside the Chinese community, right? So I think significant number of Chinese people, including Chinese intellectuals, public intellectuals, and Chinese scholars, writers, dissidents, they have expressed solidarity with the Tibetan people movement and expressed support to the military policy, including Chinese Nobel laureate Liu Shiba. He expressed support to His Holiness these initiatives and ask the Chinese government to negotiate with the Tibetan government to resolve the Tibetan issue. And there are more than 1,000 Chinese scholars who have written about and expressed support to the Middle Way policy and remain sympathy with the Tibetan people. So I think the number has been growing in recent year because we have been actively campaigning in the international community, and a recent success is national awareness campaign on Middle Way policy, and we have a very interactive website, and we have a social media page, and on that we have timeline of Tibetan struggle, which includes frequent asked questions in 7 different languages, including Chinese, and a short documentary. If you're interested, you can see them on YouTube. So I think with these initiatives and with these steps that we are taking is making the Tibetan movement, which is based on principles of justice, compassion, non-violence. So we are gaining gaining more support within the mainland China. For instance, I'll tell you I'll bring an example here. In 2012, during College Jagra in Bodh in India, there were more than 1,000 Chinese from mainland who have come to who have come for His teaching. So I think this is a positive sign that people from mainland are aware about that issue. So these initiatives, these steps will increase more awareness within the Chinese community, particularly Chinese from mainland. I think so. This is, I think, a big step of a big move from our part to in making awareness of that issue. Any comments? I appreciate comments as well.
I'm asking because I talked to a Chinese girl 2 days ago, and I asked her what she thinks about, she's a traveler kind of, what she thinks about Tibetan issue. And like at the beginning she said, oh, I have no opinion, but then she would talk for half an hour.
Oh really?
And yeah, but she was actually, well, she just said like every country wants to have more space, so it's like Chinese government is like every other government. And that's why I'm asking, because one, of course there are intellectuals and like human rights defenders even in China who suffer a lot, and I suppose that they would like support Tibet, but on the other hand there are normal, I mean everybody's normal, but like ordinary people in China, and I can imagine that propaganda really works on these ones. And she even, and that was interesting, she even said like when she talks to Tibetans here, she never says she's from China. She pretends she's Malaysian because she doesn't like talking to Tibetans and being seen as Chinese person. So it was really interesting to talk to her, and that's why I'm asking whether you know how like ordinary Chinese people view this issue.
The world witnessed widespread protests from all parts of Tibet. So the Tibetan fleeing Tibet to India, the number was so big. There was a lot of Tibetan people. For instance, Tibetan refugee center here before 2008 flooded with Tibetan people, Tibetan refugees who were coming from who were fleeing Tibet to India, and even the Tibetan schools and monasteries. There were a lot of Tibetan monks and nuns who escaped Tibet and joined the monasteries and schools in India. But after 2008, Chinese government put a stricter restriction on the Tibetan people's movement, and that led to the downfall of Tibetan people. This incident reflects that Tibetan peoples coming from Tibet are actually decreasing. Please.
Yeah, now, before 2008, it was 3,500 to 4,000 a year were escaping. After the 3,500 to 4,000 a year were escaping, and now it's down to like around 200.
For a wonderful presentation. And please have a refreshment outside.